a stumbling patchwork horror of disparate fiendish parts, all sewn together crudely and cruelly with malice, ritual magic, and dark arcane thread. This is the unholy amalgamation and servant to the night hag mistress, and a dreadful example of the whole being greater than the sum of its literal parts. Don't call this devil a fiend. The Stitched Devil, right now on Riches and Liches. Welcome, adventurers, scholars, and world builders. I'm Rich, and this is Riches and Liches, and Stitches, dedicated to dungeons, dragons, and tales of lore. If you listen to the story of the Stitched Devil preceding this lore volume, you learned that through the practice of my own dark ritual magic, we were able to not only read the ancient text from the Scribe of the Damned, but in fact bring Griley Tomekeeper's ancient voice back from the grave. And the response was very positive, as reflected in the related poll asking for your opinions. If you have not heard the story of the Stitched Devil, a link is below and above. So today, I will expend yet another high-level spell slot on some powerful thaumaturgy magic so that we may discover directly from the long-dead scholar of Candlekeep the aberrant ritual secrets of the Night Hag's unholy craft, the abomination known as the Stitched Devil. And at the end of this lore volume, we have some crafted homebrew, hooks, abilities, and treasures. So I do hope you'll stick around. And now, it's called a devil, but don't let another hear you call it a fiend. Come sit with me as the ancient texts of Griley Tomekeeper come alive as we do the full lore profile on the Stitched Devil.
Originating from the 3rd edition and published in the Monster Manual 5 for 3rd edition, exists the Stitched Devil, and a more accurate name has never been bestowed upon a creature. This is a sentient, twisted and tortured patchwork abomination, a truly wretched monstrosity in servitude to a very powerful night hag, a hulking and gruesome sight. This disgusting amalgamation is the resulting finished product of the disparate body parts of 2 or more devils, sewn together with dark arcane magic and thread, then imbued with a tormented form of life to loyalty and obediently serve their night hag mistress. Though their component parts once have belonged to the Batezu, the 9 hells have no claim on such obscene creatures, having far more in common visually with flesh golem constructs and zombies than your prototypical devil. That said, as any good product pitchman might say, these creatures are made from 100% genuine fiendish materials and expertly crafted, so perhaps a case could be made, but we will come back to that in a moment. Regardless, Stitched Devils are the unholy creations of those rare and select night hags found across Hades, the Grey Wastes, and even one rumored to reside in the city of Sigil, who have acquired and unlocked the profane secrets of this blasphemous art. It should also be noted here that although a Stitched Devil is, in a sense, constructed, once they are pieced and sewn together, then bathed in the grim ritual that gives them life, the Stitched Devil in fact fuses into their own distinctive form, becoming an entirely new creature with its own personality, motives, and pain. It is because of this fact that some posit an arguable point that the Stitched Devil is in fact a true devil, or at least an outlander fiend. You would be hard-pressed to find a Batezu that agreed with you, but it is something for you to consider, and as the world builder decide. Usually towering over 10 feet tall and weighing approximately 800 pounds, Stitched Devils are patchwork horrors, a stumbling assortment of whatever infernal, butchered flesh the crafting night hag chose to incorporate in her agonized design. Their bodies are twisted tangles consisting of a myriad of devilish arms, legs, and possibly even faces held together by the hag's magically imbued, sinew-like, unholy thread. As such, no 2 Stitched Devils will ever look the same. From the moment these tormented and disfigured creatures awaken to their new life, these textbook abominations bear the combined agony of the disjointed parts that now make them whole. Yet, despite having every reason to hate their creators for cursing them with this abhorrent and obscene existence, they do not, and in fact, the Stitched Devil is fiercely loyal and obedient to the night hag that is their mistress and creator. Some argue that this loyalty is imbued within the night hag's dark creation magic, while still others posit that they are inculcated over time, in much the same way one might train a pet. What we do know is that stitched devils are beings of dull intellect, so perhaps both are true. In fact, it is not at all uncommon when in the presence of a stitched devil to hear its audible and near-constant whine for the affection and mercy of its mistress, somehow rationalizing in its feeble mind a vain hope of somehow escaping their lowly lot in life, attaining some importance, freedom, or failing that, perhaps a restful and final death. But this is a false hope. The night hags have perfected the art of whispering false promises of relief to their grotesque pets, a deceitful incentive and motivation for this terrible creature to further commit audacious acts of villainy on her behalf and at her command. Depending upon the personal wealth and status of the night hag, those adept at the dark art required to craft a stitched devil will generally have anywhere from 1 to 4 of these horrors in their service at any given time. This is, of course, subject to the availability of fiendish parts and the night hag's ability to acquire them through gold, souls, favors, or influence. In fact, these night hags have created a small cottage industry within the 9 hells in order to procure the gruesome and often rotting ingredients they require. They secure the needed raw materials from a variety of fiendish sources, including certain Amnizu devils in charge of torture and intake stations across the hells, or any number of devils involved in the routine task of torturing souls, such as the Excruciarchs and Chitons. Of particular note are the torture devils known as Kokrakons, who the night hags take favor with as the preferred trade partner, and for good reason. The Kokrakon, as absolute scholarly masters of the living anatomy of all fiends, are able to provide the absolute freshest parts to their crooked crone clientele as part of their daily and routine torture, even letting the night hags pick their preferred component parts, while still attached to its devil owner, not unlike you might pick your own most unfortunate living lobster from the tank of a local seafood shop. In return, the night hags provide the Kokrakon something they seek, valuable larvae of lost souls, which they then use to procure more interesting subjects. A win-win, unless you are the former appendage owner, that is. Once crafted and given their new unlife, these warped, stitched devil minions are used for various tasks and purposes, including hunting down foes, personal protection for the night hag, and guarding or securing an object or location. Despite being native to Hades, night hags are well known to stalk and prowl across all the outer planes, and it is not at all uncommon for the hag to dispatch her pet to do their bidding abroad, knowing the stitched devil is unerringly subservient. Stitched devils are surrounded by relentless auras of their constant agony that serve to amplify the torment of any wounded creature within 30 feet of the stitched devil. The waves of pain emitted by these cruel fiends can drive even the hardiest warrior to their knees. These horrors also possess unnatural abilities granted by their creation through the powers of the foul mistress they serve, including the capacity to instantly transport themselves vast distances at will through the use of the greater teleport spell. In addition, once per day, a stitched devil can dispel protective magic, terrify enemies to death with visions of their darkest fears, and spew clouds of vile, befouled energy to rot the flesh of the living. In battle, a stitched devil's first act is often to target what their limited intelligence perceives to be the strongest foe with a supernatural strike, using phantasmal killer conjured to stop the enemy's heart through sheer terror. Heedless of any risk, the fiend then charges headlong into the fray, seeking to shred bone and sinew with their jagged, dagger-like claws. Although stitched devils are able to discern good from evil, in the heat of conflict they often make no distinction and have been known to ravage ally and enemy alike if surrounded. When hunting in packs, stitched devils often use their teleportation to encircle hapless prey, trapping them at the intersection of overlapping auras of suffering before descending into a frenzy of rending claws and gnashing fangs. Few can withstand the combined assault of their hellish powers and bloodthirsty ferocity, and those that fall before them are immediately ravaged and torn asunder, reduced to mangled and unrecognizable husks, dripping with gore. Rich has kindly allowed me to share some of his homebrew creations, and custom world building is especially enjoyable when you have a creature that is both unique and possessing of a fun or interesting backstory, and the Stitched Devil checks both those boxes. Not only can we homebrew around the Stitched Devil itself, but the creature may also be in the presence of its mistress Night Hag, allowing us to also incorporate her lore and traits into some homebrew fun. Today, I will share Rich's custom adventure hook, 3 special abilities for a Stitched Devil and 3 unique treasures of the Stitched Devil, or actually the Night Hag. If you'd like the complete homebrew package for the Stitched Devil in PDF form, with a total of 6 adventure hooks, 12 homebrew special abilities, 6 secrets and rumors, and 6 unique treasures, you can check out the channel Patreon. Links are below. Okay, let's start with the adventure hook, called Wicked Retribution, which will require a little setup. You will want to incorporate this as a follow-up to a previous encounter your party has had with an NPC. That, or you will want to add this encounter ahead of the hook. For example, let's say that earlier in your campaign the party had an encounter or an interaction with a paladin. Ideally, you want an NPC interaction where things did not go splendidly, some form of conflict ranging from a heated argument to a physical altercation, or perhaps the party refused a request from the NPC. But whatever the reason, this works best if the NPC, paladin or otherwise, is at odds with the party, which should not be hard in a game that is all about conflict. Once that is established, as a later follow-up, the party will then learn of a sinister night hag named Waletta the Wicked, who has just completed the crafting of a new Stitched Devil infused with the soul of that very paladin the party earlier had a beef with. Knowing this, Waletta sends the creature after your party, in search of retribution. And for this encounter, if your Stitched Devil needs a little extra juice, here are 3 potential new abilities to imbue your retribution-seeking Stitched Devil. The first is called Necrotic Absorption, usable 3 times per day. When the Stitched Devil is targeted by a spell that deals necrotic damage, it can use its reaction to absorb the necrotic energy, instead healing for half of the damage it would have taken. Next up is a fun one, Rich calls Chimeric Onslaught, usable once per day. The Stitched Devil can use its turn to reveal a concealed extra limb or appendage. For example, a fiendish tail with a barbed stinger or an additional clawed arm. And for the next 3 rounds, the Stitched Devil gains an additional attack per round with a damage type unique to the appendage, for example piercing, slashing or bludgeoning, add poison, etc. And the final special ability for our Stitched Devil is called Soul-Wrenching Screech. Once per long rest, the Stitched Devil can unleash a harrowing scream channeling the misery and torment it constantly feels. All creatures within 30 feet must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be frightened and take psychic damage. Those who fail the save by 5 or more are also stunned for 1 round. Now, if we are going to empower our Stitched Devil, we should also give it some unique treasure. Normally, a Stitched Devil, as a mere patchwork pet of the Night Hag, would likely never own any of these powerful treasures. So as the DM or world builder, you will need to create a plausible scenario allowing these items to be part of the Stitched Devil's loot. You could, for example, have the encounter take place within the Night Hag's lair, where the items are stored. Perhaps a creepy cottage in the dark woods where the Stitched Devil has been left alone to guard the lair, while the Night Hag is off procuring more body parts. Whatever method you decide, the goal is to create a reasonable story as to why any of these items would be available. Our first treasure item is, in fact, the Tome of Flesh. This is the actual perverse and rare book detailing the dark secret arts of creating Stitched Devils, a prized and guarded artifact of Night Hags who already know the ritual, and most certainly valuable and sought after by those Night Hags who don't. But with the book comes dangers unbeknownst to the thieves, for the Night Hag has a special connection to the tome and can sense its presence within a 1,000-foot radius, adding potential encounters and interactions for any mortal who takes possession of such a forbidden tome. The second item is called the Brooch of Torment's Ease. This is a magical brooch which will suppress the pain-inducing aura of the Stitched Devil. And our final item is perhaps the most prized, which Rich calls the Profane Scalpel. This is the dark magical dagger used by the Night Hag to cut into the very flesh of the devilish parts used in the crafting and creation of a Stitched Devil. It is a powerful blade with a single special ability. Rich has created 4 special enchantments for you to imbue the dagger. It is recommended that the blade only possesses one of these powers, for reasons of balance. The first enchantment is called Severance Strike. Once per long rest, a wielder can use the Profane Scalpel to make a cutting strike against a Stitched Devil or similar construct, aiming for its magically imbued seams. If the attack hits, it does extra damage and forces the creature to make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, one of its limbs becomes temporarily non-functional for a number of rounds equal to the wielder's proficiency bonus. The second power is called Soul Glimpse. Once per day, when the profane scalpel makes contact with the flesh of a night hag or a stitched devil, the wielder can peer briefly into their dark essence. This glimpse gives them insight into the creature's next action, granting the wielder advantage on the next attack roll, save, or ability check involving the creature. For a third alternative power, the blade can be imbued with devilish suture. As a bonus action, the wielder can use the profane scalpel to mend wounds with infernal stitching. The stitching grants temporary hit points equal to the wielder's level plus their wisdom or intelligence modifier. However, the infernal nature of these sutures causes the recipient to hear faint whispers, imposing disadvantage on wisdom saving throws for the next hour, and additionally has a random % chance to leave a dark sutured scar upon the wound. The final power for the profane scalpel, Rich calls the Mark of the Hag. On a critical hit, the scalpel curses the target with the night hag's mark. The marked enemy suffers disadvantage on saving throws against spells and abilities used by night hags, as well as any character who is aware of the mark. The mark lasts until removed by a remove curse spell or similar means. This stitched monstrosity may be a devil in name only, but it is not without its charms. Okay, it has no charms at all, but it does have a painful aura, the freakish ability to climb like Spider Pig, one heck of a backstory and some fun treasure to boot. All that, and hopefully you have learned a valuable life-saving lesson today. The next time you come upon a night hag, be sure to look around. She may not be alone.
And that concludes our deep dive into the Stitched Devil, a unique creature that I think has a world of possibilities at almost any table. I hope you were entertained and or learned something new today and had as much fun watching as I had sharing with each of you. If you'd like the complete Homebrew PDF compilation for Waletta the Wicked and her Stitched Devil, which by the way is packed with 33 different Homebrew creations, please check out the channel Patreon, where it's already published and online. Links are below. And also, maybe consider joining our community of lore sages and scholars over on Discord, where you can submit show suggestions that I read every day, and it's completely free. Thanks for listening, and until next time, remember, the only limitation at your table is your imagination.